The Hurricanes just wrapped up their second spring practice today. We were able to watch about 15 to 20 minutes, which was a little bit more than what we saw on the first day, which was closer to about 10 to 15 minutes or so. And I'm definitely looking forward to putting together the video of the drills that I watched today. And on this video, I'm gonna talk about my observations on some of the things that I watched during that time period. But first, let's talk about after practice. We were able to speak with new offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson and new defensive coordinator Lance Guidry. It's the first time that reporters have been able to speak to them. I was glad to hear what they had to say about what they think of this team and also the opportunity, and that's where it starts. Coach Dawson said this is an opportunity of a lifetime. He certainly is excited, and he remembers getting an interview with Mario Cristobal while he was at Stephen F. Austin. While Cristobal was at FIU, obviously didn't get the job, but he felt like that interview helped him get this job. And he said you never know how things are going to work out, and certainly he is excited to be at Miami. He likes the way that things look so far, but he's looking forward to seeing how the spring continues to progress, particularly with a lot of guys. And he said, look, a lot of reps for a lot of different players will give the coaches an opportunity to see exactly who steps up and who rises. He didn't want to, when he was asked about specific players, he didn't want to talk about specific guys, but he did say he was willing to speak about quarterback Tyler Van Dyke and said he's the guy. So I don't think there's any questions there. Not that there was or any controversy like that, but it was just good to hear him really support Tyler in that way. And the other day when Tyler spoke after practice, he spoke a lot about the communication being good so far with Coach Dawson. And I think that relationship's going to continue to grow. That's obviously what you're looking forward to doing. Another thing that Coach Dawson said after practice was, we talked about the air raid. You know, that's the term that we will use. That is the term that most people do use to describe his offenses, but he wanted to back off a little bit from that and said that there's a lot of things that go into an offense. And one thing too that stood out to me with what he had to say, and this will be something that we can hopefully hear more about during the spring, but he wants to throw and get big yards in the passing game, downfield with big pass plays. He feels like that will help set up the run. He wants to run more, but he wants to get big passing yards through the air on particular plays. I found that to be interesting. So look for big plays. If Miami can get downfield with their wide receivers, Tyler Van Dyke, obviously throughout his time at Miami, has thrown the deep ball well and connected deep. And hopefully he can get back to more of what we saw from 2021, where he did throw the ball deep a little bit more than last season and connected much better. I remember last spring, he did have some issues, including in the spring game. So we will see if that continues to progress with the deep ball, with Coach Dawson's philosophies, and if Tyler can connect with the wide receivers, getting the ball downfield and make big plays in the passing game. Certainly that's what they look to do, as opposed to maybe, you know, the high completion percentage with the short passing game. So watch for that. As far as the wide receivers go, with some of my observations, that was the group that I paid the most attention to today, so I'll speak about them. And first, just starting out with the first unit. Again, what does it mean? Does it mean anything? It's really hard to read into things. Obviously, guys can move up and down the depth chart, but when the first team offense came out, Xavier Restrepo was in the slot, Colby Young was on one side, and then also Jacoby George was on the other side. So maybe look at, if you're looking for three guys, and one thing that I like about those three in particular, them as a group together, and Coach Dawson actually referenced this during his post-practice interview, is all three guys have different skill sets, different body shapes, different speeds, different athleticism. They just present a lot of different things as a group, and I think that's something that offenses definitely want to have with the big guy, kind of a small, medium, large thing if you really want to break it down. But all three of those guys, something to watch for if they can kind of stay on that top group. I know Jacoby George is a guy that's looking to emerge after what happened last year, up and down, in and out of the lineup, but he's looking to put together a complete season, and I think he's got the potential to do so. He's got to make plays, obviously, but he's a guy that we've seen make big plays since he's been at Miami. As I mentioned earlier, with Coach Dawson wanting to get the ball downfield, look for Jacoby George to potentially be in that guy as a downfield threat, but that's something to watch for. So I had to take a little bit of a break because the student managers are out here. They're still cleaning up the field. There's a lot of work that goes into running a practice. It's not just that the players and coaches show up, but just getting all the pads put away. They're collecting all this stuff around the field right now. So I definitely don't want to get in their way. They've got a lot of hard work to do, but I do want to keep this thing going and kind of wrap it up as well. But sticking with the offense, before I flip to defense and some other things that I want to make note, but with the offense, it was good seeing Javian Cohen out here for the first time, Alabama transfer. He was out here at left guard. He missed the first day of practice because he was but he was at Indianapolis for the NFL draft symposium that they hold for college players looking to be drafted for the next year. So that's why he missed the first day of practice. Coach Cristobal spoke about that. He's certainly excited for Javian to be able to do that. But he was out here today in the first group, left guard, and I think that's something to pay attention with Javian. Certainly that's where he's slotted to be with all the time that he played at that position while at Alabama. Still, UCF transfer Matt Lee at center, and then right now left tackle is Jalen Rivers. We'll see how Jalen does, and Jalen did speak after the first practice, that he expects to move around on the offensive line, but we will see if he can kind of hold that position down at left tackle or just be a tackle in general. We've seen Jalen play guard, including last season, so we'll see if he can kind of handle that, as well as, obviously we're paying very close attention to the development, the day-to-day progress of the two highly regarded freshmen in Samson Okunlola and Francis Mawinoa. So we'll see how those guys do moving forward. But just good to see Cohen's back, and I think he really brings a lot to the offensive line, the new look offensive line. Definitely stay tuned to the channel as we kind of dive more into the offensive line and all these new guys and what it means. Will Miami's offensive line be more improved from last year? Will it be more the same, or will it take a step back? We'll see how everything goes with that, but we'll definitely break it all down, so stay tuned to the channel. One last note on the offense before I switch to the defensive side of the ball. I was also able to watch the quarterbacks. Again, they're doing a lot of quick throws in the drills, and one of the things that I noticed today, which was a lot of fun to watch because I was right on the end zone, right behind the goalpost there, and the quarterbacks were throwing right towards me, but they had the net in front of it. It's the the 3-pocket net, and they were doing quick throws with that, which I've not seen before, where they typically will take their time and make throws, but this time they were throwing straight on, and it was a lot of fun to watch them throw a ball essentially right at me, which you can see the velocity, but also the accuracy very clearly. I'm going to post that video so you guys can see it as well, so definitely stay tuned for that. But it wasn't just quick throws. They were also kind of moving, shuffling left to right, right to left, in terms of avoiding some pocket presence type stuff, avoiding defenders, or they actually had equipment manager with the bag so they could avoid that. So that was good to see. Again, working on accuracy always, but quick accuracy, get the ball out fast, and certainly that's something Coach Dawson wants to do as well as going deep. So we'll see how that goes moving forward, but it's always fun watching the quarterbacks throw the ball. With Coach Guidry in the defense, a couple things real quickly. He spoke very highly of Jason Taylor. Feels like he's a future NFL defensive coordinator or college defensive coordinator. You can already see it. It's already in the works. So that's great to hear so many positive things about Coach Taylor. Obviously, we heard a lot about in his role last year, but now that he's officially a defensive line coach, he's going to be able to do even more than he was a year ago, and he definitely is going to be able to make his imprint on this defensive line, have his voice really be heard. But again, he was involved last year, just more so this year in an on-field role. So that's good to hear. Also, Coach Guidry, just had a pleasant attitude about really looking forward to working with the rest of the defensive staff. Coach Taylor, Adai, and also Nicholson. He's looking forward to working with these guys, as well as Coach Salaveas. So he's looking for some positive energy with the defense and working with the staff. And as far as the players go, there were a few things that stood out to me. You talked about Cam Kitchens. Obviously, he was asked about him. What are your thoughts on him? And he's been impressed with Cam. And one thing he did note, and this kind of goes for the whole defense, he was talking about the terminology of the defense. And he said there's been times where he's been at different places, and he tends to just use the terminology that they've had before. But with this one, he feels like they went with a whole new, his approach. They're not gonna do the same, call things the same as it was a year ago. So he's gonna put his own imprint on it. It's a learning process. He expects that the installs after the end of spring practices will be about 65 to 70% done by then. But he said, look, we're gonna take it slow, so that'll be something to pay attention to. And maybe we'll maybe some of the results on the field during scrimmages, maybe the defense will fall behind a little bit of the offense because of something like this. So that's just something to pay attention to, something I'll be paying attention to throughout the spring, because it's already been mentioned with Coach Guidry that, look, they're looking forward to taking things slow, and that's just what it is. That's what happens sometimes with coaching changes, so that's something to pay attention to. And he also said, Cam's a quick learner, but Cam's learning in this new defense as well. Now, there are a couple of guys that he did single out that he talked about. He was really excited about Mawinoa, Francisco, Francis's brother there at linebacker. He's looking forward to the pads being on, and that's why I don't want to speak too much about what I've seen from the defense. I will focus more on the defense the next practice. Again, focus on quarterbacks and wide receivers today. I'm going to flip to defense the next practice out. Hopefully you're able to get a viewing period and watch those guys as the shells come on, as full pads come on very soon. So I'll be paying more attention to that. But again, it was good to hear what Coach Guidry had to say. Also spoke about his long-term essentially being a fan of Miami, remembers the Miami Notre Dame games. He said his first job in coaching while at McNeese State was against Miami. So he certainly, obviously the game didn't go very well for his McNeese squad, but he just has fond memories of Miami. He's glad to be here and certainly excited for the opportunity. I just spoke about terminology being different, but so when he talked about his defense, and you've seen maybe some film of his previous defenses where he's got two guys with their hands in the dirt on the defensive line, a couple of defensive ends that are standing up. So it looks a little bit of a hybrid, and it's been called that by some people, and he quickly put it into that and said, look, it's really 4 down linemen. We just have 2 guys standing up on the edges so they can be able to peek at the running back and see what they're doing, but they're considered defensive ends in his defense. He said they run with 4 linemen, 2 backers, and 5 defensive backs. And as soon as I heard the 5 defensive backs thing, I wanted to ask him what the 5th defensive back is called, because what we've seen in previous defenses, Coach Steele last year called it a star. We saw the striker with Manny Diaz's defense before that. So I was just curious about the terminology. And even though he said they're going to change things up with how they kind of call certain things and call certain plays, he did say that his 5th spot there at defensive back is called a star position. He called it a hybrid between cornerback and safety, similar to what we heard before. So I asked him as a follow-up who's been working there, and what was good too, and I'm going to post his video so you can hear him explain it, but he explained what he's looking for with that 5th defensive back, some key traits and skills that he's looking for, those attributes that are ideal for that star position for him. But he talked about Corey Couch getting an opportunity at that spot, also talked about Jaden Harris as well. So those are just a couple guys kind of getting a look there at the star position. He feels like that'll kind of emerge as spring ball goes on. They're just kind of doing a lot of drill work and things like that right now, but that was something that stood out to me. But again, his full comments, Coach Dawson's full comments, some drill work videos, I'll be posting all of that to the channel. I just want to do this quick recap. Finally got through it here. A little bit more difficult. It was an early start today, but I'm looking forward to the next practice. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Definitely took a lot of those into consideration and gonna apply those for future videos. So thank you for your support. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day and take care.